The Wild West conjures up images of rugged cowboys on horseback, guns blazing as they fight off outlaws and Indians. This romanticized version of the Old West cowboy was popularized by dime novels and Hollywood films, portraying a glorified way of life. But the real experiences of cowboys in the late 1800s were far less glamorous. Join Facts First as we explore what it was like to be a cowboy in America's Wild West. The origins of the American cowboy. The roots of the American cowboy tradition can be traced back to the skilled horsemen known as vaqueros, who worked on ranches in colonial Mexico beginning in the early 1500s. The vaqueros had developed effective techniques for handling cattle on horseback over the centuries. When Anglo settlers began moving westward from the eastern U.S. in the 1800s, they adopted many of the tools and practices of the vaqueros to work with livestock themselves. For example, they borrowed the iconic look of the vaquero, including chaps, spurs, bandanas, and elaborate saddles. As the demand for beef grew rapidly in developing eastern and northern cities in the mid-1800s, more cowboys were needed to manage the herds being raised on ranches in Texas and surrounding areas and drive them along various overland routes to access rail lines for transport back east. The ranks of American cowboys included former soldiers, outlaws, freed slaves, and immigrants from around the world, all looking for work as ranch hands and herders. The era of the American cowboy driving cattle along rugged trails like the Chisholm Trail and tending sprawling ranches lasted just a few decades, but left an indelible imprint on frontier history. Cowboys were also known for bravery and physical strength. They had to handle tough tasks like taming wild horses and managing cattle. Their courage helped them face challenges like sudden stampedes or harsh weather. They also needed the smarts to read cow behavior and make split-second decisions. The cowboys' long workdays. A typical cowboy's workday began before the sun rose in order to ready the horses and prepare for another long, grueling day. Their morning meal was extremely sparse, usually just a quick bite consisting of coffee, beans, some bread or biscuits, and bacon if it was available. This hurried breakfast was the only chance the cowboys had to eat anything substantial before spending nearly the entire remainder of the daylight hours in the saddle tending to the cattle. Once mounted, the cowboys would spend almost all day on horseback, herding cattle across expansive open plains and rugged backcountry terrain. Their goal was to keep the wandering herd together and prevent strays from wandering away from the rest. It was common for cowboys to be steadily riding for 18 hours or more in a single stretch, just to keep a watchful eye on the large roaming herd. If they were moving the cattle longer distances along a trail towards rail lines for transport to market, these long days could stretch on for weeks or even months with little rest. At night, when the herd finally settled down to rest, one cowboy stood guard on watch, while the others only got the chance to catch a precious few hours of sleep outdoors under the stars on their bedrolls. There was no escaping the omnipresent dust and dirt constantly swirling around both man and beast while out on the remote range. Cowboys wore the same clothes day after day until they finally reached a town where they could bathe and change into clean outfits, which was a rare luxury. The cowboy's attire and gear. A cowboy's clothing and equipment needed to be extremely rugged and practical to handle being on horseback while herding livestock across rough, open terrain day after day. Their distinctive attire included wide-brimmed felt hats to shield their eyes from the glaring sun and provide protection during rains. Bandanas covered their nose and mouth to filter out dust kicked up by cattle hooves. Leather chaps or leggings helped protect their legs from scrapes and scratches from brush and thorns. High-heeled cowboy boots with pointed toes prevented their feet from slipping through the stirrups and provided stability in the saddle. Durable canvas or denim jeans and shirts stood up to snags and scrapes without ripping. Deerskin gloves improved grip on reins and tools while protecting their hands from injuries. Cowboys also carried essential tools and weapons, including rifles and revolvers for hunting and protection, ropes and lassos for wrangling cattle, spurs for directing their horses, and pocket knives for general use. While their rugged attire and gear now seem iconically fashionable, each item served a direct practical purpose. Camaraderie. Although it was often a very solitary, lonely existence, cowboys developed close-knit communities grounded in loyalty and camaraderie to their fellows. Out on the trail together, they depended on tight cooperation and teamwork, looking out for each other's safety and well-being. A strong spirit of loyalty within the group was highly valued, along with mutual respect for the livestock in their charge. Cowboys tended to be a highly diverse mix of characters from widely varying backgrounds, everything from former soldiers and outlaws to freed slaves and immigrants seeking opportunity. There was surprisingly little discrimination based on race, ethnicity, or country of origin. Black, Hispanic, Native American, and immigrant cowboys all worked closely alongside their white counterparts, with each man contributing equally to the demanding shared work. A cowboy's horse was his most trusted and loyal companion through every adventure and hardship. The bond between rider and steed, along with a horse's intelligence and rigorous training, could literally mean the difference between life or death in challenging situations. Cowboys nurtured and cared for horses like close partners, since the animals were specially chosen and trained for adeptly handling cattle. The Perils and Dangers. In addition to the day-to-day rigors and dangers of handling large, powerful livestock, cowboys faced many other serious threats and hazards. Getting trampled or gored by agitated cattle was a constant risk, as was being thrown from a horse, which could easily result in broken bones or a deadly head injury. Gunshot wounds from disputes between cowboys or attacks by outlaws plagued the lonely trails and campsites. Rattlesnakes and other venomous critters posed a threat of painful bites, and disease outbreaks could rapidly sweep through crowded bunkhouses and camps in the absence of proper hygiene and medical care. Unexpected stampedes of the cattle herds could occur, putting many lives at risk in an instant. Trying to cross swollen, rapidly moving rivers to reach the market was often treacherous and potentially deadly. Even during leisure time in towns, alcohol-fueled violence and disorder frequently erupted as cowboys let off steam after months of isolation and monotonous work. The very ruggedness and toughness required to survive this difficult lifestyle often fueled rough-and-ready behavior when restraints were loosened. However, the most dangerous and unpredictable threat came from the extreme elements of the landscape itself. Brutal blizzards, thunderstorms, flash floods, droughts, and dust storms could appear without warning and quickly turn deadly. Exposure and the elements continually tested the inner fortitude and will to endure of even the most experienced men on the frontier. In reality, a cowboy's existence was repetitive manual labor, subsistence living conditions, and ever-present danger. But they took pride in their self-reliance and mastery of the harsh landscape. Now it's time to hear from you. Which one of these facts was surprising to hear about? Let us know in the comments section below.